Aloha and welcome to Introduction to Applications Programming. I'd like to take a moment to tell you a little bit about what this class is about and what you can expect to do this semester. First of all, this class is about acquiring basic programming skills in an IT context. This is a little bit different than acquiring basic programming skills in, say, a computer science context or maybe any other place that you might take a programming class. What we're really interested in here is getting the basic skills necessary to build applications that solve business problems. So that's a little different than some other things that maybe they're more interested in the technology itself, or perhaps looking at algorithms and data structures, or maybe more theoretical concerns. We're very much in an applied context here. We're not going to spend a lot of time looking at the technical details of things, but we're really more getting an experience on how to translate problems that we might have to deal with in information systems or information technology into solutions that we can develop ourselves as an application. We also need to understand why IT people or MIS professionals need programming skills and knowledge. This is basically because when you encounter any sort of technical issues, especially in business, typically there's a custom solution to make something work. And maybe a consultant built something, or there was a former employee, or maybe there was a purchased application that needs to be modified. But they really need to have the ability to understand not only how something was developed, but perhaps to change it. And there's so many examples of where MIS professionals were unable to perform or satisfactorily address an issue because they lacked the basic programming skills to go in and at least look at what's going on. So I have a lot of interesting case studies of this from former students who've come back and been really thankful that they had some programming skills. So in other words, these kinds of things these days, it's not really an optional. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a programmer for the rest of your career, but it does mean that you are able to address a little more technical issues than the typical business professional might. And usually they get stuck and they look to our MIS professionals to find solutions. You need to be able to do this. So whether you're going to actually develop an application or applications in the future, you may, maybe you won't. But at some point you'll probably be faced with having to deal with some sort of custom developed system, whether it's a script in a database, it could be a website, it could be any number of things. You're going to have those skills to be able to at least understand what's going on and then figure out how to go from there. So you're going to get a lot of hands-on experience developing actual software applications. You're going to really know how things work underneath the hood. And you're going to experience various problems and solutions around that. So we're not necessarily interested in the best way of solving problems or the best way to do things or the highest, most interesting technology, but we're interested in what works and how to apply this to solving problems that you experience in the workplace. Most importantly, what you need to get out of this class is gain the confidence to address a whole variety of IT or IS kinds of problems that you may encounter. Whether it involves programming or not, the kinds of skills that you're going to be developing in this class will help you have that confidence. A lot of that has to do with just learning on your own, actually figuring out what's going on when other people don't even have an idea where to start. Some misconceptions about 352 is that it's really only about programming. It's only about getting that code out and being the best programmer you can. Well, that's just not true. We're really trying to build those skills and confidence in MIS, and this is a foundation for a lot of the other things you'll be doing in your career here at Scheidler, also in your career as an MIS professional. And it doesn't matter whether you're going to head off in another direction for which MIS is only going to be part of it. It's still going to be an important part of what you do. You don't have to have any programming experience. That's another thing in this class that people sort of misunderstand, that it actually assumes you don't know anything. We do assume that you have certain confidence and competence with technology and dealing with computing, that you're not afraid of it, that's for sure, and that you perhaps even have some enthusiasm for trying to understand how things work and maybe even solving problems. But we don't necessarily expect you to have any programming experience. That being said, of course, if you do have programming experience, you will find 352 quite a bit easier because you already have built up some of those skills that many of the people who don't have those skills are going to have to acquire, and they're very difficult to acquire. They take some time, which is why it does require a serious and sustained investment. If you're going to build those programming skills, you're going to have to understand where things fit in. You're going to have to put in a serious effort. That means that pretty much every week you're going to be working on your programming skills, whether it's just basic lab exercises or work of the day kinds of things, or full assignments and applications that you're going to carry out through several periods of time. You can pretty much expect throughout the semester you will be constantly working on something. Now that doesn't necessarily mean you have to invest a huge amount of work, not more than other classes. It just means that the effort is more sustained, it's more continuous. It doesn't just come and go. It's always going to be present. So you just need to plan for that. Just make sure that you take time aside, that every day or maybe every other day, whatever it is that you need to do, you set aside the time necessary to build the skills that you're going to have to develop in this class. It's not hard to get a good grade. It's really easy to get a good grade in this class. Simply just do the work. If you finish the work and you complete it, and you're successful with it when you know it works, then you're going to get a good grade. The people who do poorly in this class are the ones who don't do the work or they give up. Just always know that I'm here to help you whenever you have trouble. My job here is to guide you, and when you get into trouble, which you will get stuck on things, and that's normal part of the process. I'm going to be here to try to help guide you through it and get you past it. What I can't do is just dump programming into your head. It's something that you're just going to have to learn and experience from just getting hands-on and practicing and working at things and struggling with various different things. But again, just know that I'm always here to help you get past it. So what we're going to do this semester is to build dynamic web-based applications using PHP. And we're going to learn a little bit more about what PHP is later on. But for now, you just have to understand it's a programming language. It's specifically suited for building dynamic web-based applications, of which you've seen many already. I'm sure that on the web you've interacted with many things. Anytime you've filled out a form online and registered for something and purchased some products from a website or something like that, you're interacting with a dynamic web-based application, and very likely something perhaps even written in PHP. You can see some examples here, if you're interested, of some former students' work that you will, at the end of the semester, have the capability of doing yourself. Again, these are not perfect examples. I'm not saying they're the best examples. They're just two real examples of two students who finished this class and developed these things as their final project, assignment 4, as you'll see. Now what we're going to do this semester is that we're not going to memorize a lot of stuff. What you need to do is draw out of yourself that skill that is required and the confidence to address programming application systems problems. You'll learn a little bit more about how to do that and why you need to do it. But most importantly, you have to realize that this comes from you. I can't give it to you. It's not something that I can open up your head and just put in there. It's something you earn by working at it. A lot of language, there's going to be a lot of new tech terms and technologies and things like that that you're going to have to just get used to. And that's okay. Every specialized area has their own way of communicating, and certainly programming has its own too. In fact, there's many different varieties of it. What you need to do is fully participate in this class. You just need to really just dive in, try to have fun with it, and really enjoy getting into and practicing what you're learning. Of course, it's not necessarily going to come easily, but when you get it, you will be very, very happy that you do. And then you'll be moving on to the next thing. We don't know exactly when you'll get things, so the syllabus that we have for this class is really only a roadmap, and it's designed to allow you to work more or less at your own pace. That being said, of course, we still have various schedule items to keep you progressing. So the class objectives are for you to become familiar with basic programming, of course, but we're also going to help you become familiar with the basic development of software application systems, something that in 353 you'll dive into a lot more deeply. Whether you think you're capable or not, I guarantee you that if you stick with this, you will be able to do this. You will acquire the basic rudimentary programming skills, and you will be able to build applications. You may not like it, it may not be what you want to do for the rest of your life, or maybe it is. Maybe you'll find it really exciting. Either way, you're absolutely capable of doing it. Another thing that we're going to be learning or in this class, of course, is to utilize development environments for performing the exercises and assignments. In fact, in particular, we're going to be using an integrated development environment. Then this semester we've chosen to use NetBeans. You'll learn more about that in a little bit, but there's a variety of different tools out there. There's a lot of tools, in fact, and so we're going to start diving in and learning a few of these. In the future, you'll be able to just go and look and find whether a tool is particularly of any benefit to you, or whether you can skip it and use whatever you're using now. So we're going to introduce you to some of that. That's something that's going to be useful for 353 and 354. You also need to acquire some skills and strategies for becoming efficient at the building applications. So it's not just about coding, but doing it efficiently. That means not getting stuck, or if when you do get stuck, knowing how to get unstuck, looking things up for yourself, adapting code, reusing code, all kinds of different things. So we'll talk more about this as we go, but you'll see that the class is designed in such a way to actually carry you forward in becoming more efficient at these things. By the end of the class, certainly you have a lot to still work on, but it'll certainly get you on the right path, and that's what we want. In 353 and 354, you'll develop those things further. You're going to get a hands-on experience. I mean, when I mean hands-on, I mean your fingers will be on the keyboard a lot with getting all aspects of introductory level PHP programming. Of course, the PHP programming is quite a vast subject in its own right, and we won't have time to go through every possible thing, but certainly you will have a very, very solid foundation for which you can move forward on your own after the class is over. It's quite important to realize that one of the objectives of this class, and why you take it first in the MIS core, is that it sets a foundation for the next two classes, 353, System Analysis Design, and ITN 354, which is Database Applications. So what you are learning now is something that you will be enhancing and utilizing in your other classes. Again, it doesn't mean that those classes are all about programming. They'll assume that you know how to do it, that you'll have that programming background so that you can build on that and focus in on some of the other aspects of MIS. So basically, we're going to learn programming. We're going to start out from the very beginning of getting the tools and figuring out how to get those tools to work, and making sure they work for us and what they're doing for us. Then we'll we'll learn a little bit about the basic development process, the code test debug cycle, and then we'll go into some of the nitty-gritty things about conditional execution and flow control, and of course you'll learn about what the various data types are, and then we'll start moving into the design phase. So that'll be the basic programming constructs, and then we'll move into, well, how do you put that stuff together to actually do something useful, like what's an algorithm, and how do you build an application from all those different algorithms, and what's the design of things, and how does that affect what you do and how it's done. We'll later on in the semester start touching on project management and maybe even some information security. This is a necessary thing. As we start working on the project, we're going to have to start dealing with management of that. Otherwise, you have a high likelihood of not delivering what's necessary or what's wanted. So again, we'll get more on that later. And of course, this is going to be a big subject in ITM 353, so you'll get a little taste of it here in 352, only out of necessity though. I think the most exciting thing is that you will build an original e-commerce application or something like it, an e-service application, basically a web application. And this very much differs than building a basic website. This is something that's quite sophisticated. It could have something which allows users to register and log in and keeps track of where they are and what they've purchased if they're purchasing things, and maybe shopping carts and generating invoices and emails and a variety of different things. Depending on what our project is, you'll get a variety of different experiences, but nonetheless, it's going to be something original and something substantial. At the end of the semester, you will get an opportunity to present that. And that's very important, that if as an MIS professional, to know how to deliver technical presentations. You'll probably be doing a lot of that after you graduate. So our syllabus, of course, most of the information, everything that we are going to do in this class will be posted on our GitHub ITM 352 website. We'll talk more about that in class. I'll show you what that is. You should become very familiar with the Moria approach, which is modules and outcomes, readings, experiences, and assessments. And so you'll have to follow that structure in order to figure out what you should be doing, when you should be doing it, how much you should be doing, etc. That being said, even though we're going to be using this as our kind of main information hub, you'll be getting assignments and submitting work through Laulima. So that's what it says. You can see the Laulima, but there's also, this is sort of interacting with Laulima in terms of your grades and your submissions and things like that, and maybe even announcements will be done through Laulima. You want to pay particular attention to the modules. The modules are pretty much how the class is organized. Regrettably, it's going to be subject to change because I will adapt what is on there based on what you guys need. It depends on how fast you guys go and whether you get stuck on certain things, or there are certain subject areas that we believe we need a little more in-depth work on. And also it depends on our project. So it is going to be subject to change, but I promise it won't be a big deal. Just make sure you keep track of what's going on. Don't just assume that what you see one day is always going to be there. There are really no textbooks for this class, but you can purchase a book called Learning PHP 5 if you want. It's a really good reference. It's actually pretty cheap and has a lot of good material in there. If I do need to give you any readings, I will supply them for you online. But this is a good reference to have. The PHP Cookbook is also a really nice reference. It has a lot of solutions to common problems. You don't need to have it, but if you do have it, you might find some useful things in there. You do need to download and install and get working 2 pieces of key software. Actually, we're going to probably have more than this, but 2 key pieces are the NetBeans for PHP and XAMPP. And if you look at the course module, acquiring the WADS, let's see, was it Web Application Development Tools, WADT, you'll see instructions on where to get these and what they are. You also need a pretty decent computer used. You don't want to get stuck with some old technology that's not going to be able to help you develop your web applications. So we're going to be running a fair number of sophisticated things like we're going to be running web servers and database servers and integrated development environments, and they actually take quite a bit of computing power. Now, you don't have to have the latest, greatest, or the most high-powered thing, but anything that's maybe more than 4 years old is a bit suspicious. Now, you might be able to get away with it, but just please understand that you might need to find another machine if things aren't performing well for you. There's going to be 4 programming assignments. They're going to build on each other, and the 4th one may end up being an original real customer-based project. So we'll see on what we get this semester in terms of potential projects and which ones we'll pick. But basically, you're going to start out individually on these things, and then you're going to start working in pairs and then threes and then maybe larger groups. You may even work with people in other classes, say ITM 353 and 354. So more about these assignments later. You don't need to worry about them. Our first half of the class doesn't really deal with these assignments. We'll be dealing with lab problems and work of the day kinds of things and sort of mini assignments. But ultimately, these assignments are going to culminate in an actual, real customer-based project. And this is really exciting because it leaves you with the confidence of knowing that you can actually deliver on a real system. Again, the objective is not to make it perfect. It's just to actually be able to go through the process, have an experience of what that's like, and be able to know that you're not just stuck, that you can actually progress on this. So we'll talk more about this later. You'll be happy to know there are no exams in this class. There's plenty of work to do, and I don't think that exams are really going to do anybody any good. So you may have some quizzes that you do before class to help you prepare for class. They're typically little answering some questions or just doing some little lab things, but mostly you come to class prepared to work on either the work of the day, workouts of the day, kinds of exercises, or your assignments. Should you fall short a little bit, you'll find out that your grade really is dependent on what you are able to complete in class. So sometimes maybe you're not able to complete some things in class. Perhaps you are absent and you miss some of the things, and if you start to fall behind, we can give you some extra credit opportunities to make up for that. You're not able to make up for things that you miss. I just need you to know that if you miss a workout of the day, if you miss a lab assignment, if you miss an assignment, you cannot make them up. It's not like you can just do them in at the end. They are kind of on a schedule, but you can maybe do other things to make up for it. But my best advice to you is you should not need extra credit. If you just do the work, you know what work needs to be done, and you get it done, you'll be just fine, and you won't need any extra credit. So what that means for you is that the grade that you get in this class is pretty much on a flat scale based on the percentage complete. So if you complete 90% or more of the work, then that means completed. I'm not talking about that you did a great job with it or not, but that you did satisfactorily on the assignments and the workouts of the days or any labs, and you just submitted them. And satisfactory means that you did enough that it shows that you knew you did what you needed to do with it. So if you do better than that, that's great, but you're only required to actually satisfactorily complete the work. And if you get 90% or more of that, you're going to guaranteed to get an A. So everybody in this class can get an A, and actually everybody should get an A in this class. I'm hoping that that will happen. The only reason you don't get an A in this class is if you fall behind and you stop turning in work. Anyways, your progress will be continuously monitored and posted. And again, if you're not falling, if you're falling a little short, we could find some ways to help get you caught up a little bit. The lectures will be available on the class webpage prior to class. The lectures are not something, they're going to be like this. There's going to be a little webcast, and instead of having me sitting here and talking, what will happen is you'll have exercises to do along the way, and you'll maybe stop the screencast and then do the exercise and then come back to it, and etc., etc. Basically, it prepares you for what we're going to do in class. Most of the classes are actually going to be either follow-alongs, where you come to class and we all work on something together and you just sort of follow along, or they're going to be workout of the days, where you're going to get an assignment and you just go do them and you need to finish it in a certain amount of time. All of these things will typically follow what was in the lecture. So the lectures that you do before class, outside of class, are really important. They're a little boring, I understand, but hopefully you'll learn how to make best use of those to prepare for coming to class and completing the work. So to do well in 352, just come to class. Ask questions, do the assignments early, especially the readings. Don't wait to the hour before class to try to cram in things. That usually doesn't work very well. And, the usual things. Take advantage of opportunities. Make sure that you are confident and that you can do this. And then don't waste a lot of time worrying about whether you can or cannot. See what you can do. Do it. That's the best thing. We don't accept late programming assignments or any other kind of work typically unless it's an emergency. There's a good reason for that. They build up on each other, and if you have a late assignment, it means you're very, very far behind. And so we really need to make sure that you're progressing at a certain rate so that we can get you where we need you to get to by the end of the semester. There is some flexibility, of course, in doing the assignments, and you'll see as we progress through to that stage. One of the things you should be aware of is that there should be no reason to cheat in this class. It doesn't help you, of course, and you shouldn't be worried so much about your grade that you feel like you need to cheat. Cheating would be having someone else doing your programming work. Okay, anyone who does your work or you find other work and submit it as your own is considered cheating. So we don't tolerate any of it. I don't suggest you do it. Now that being said, it doesn't mean you can't work with other people. It doesn't mean that you can't go and find code, say, on the net and maybe copy some of that, maybe adapt it. That's perfectly okay. What you can't do is turn something that somebody else did as yours. So don't do that. Okay, so anyways, we don't tolerate any of this kind of stuff. You can see here some of the things that aren't tolerated. And it's not worth it. You need to build your skills, and you can only build those skills by you facing the problems and dealing with them and overcoming them on your own. So the way class typically works is there's going to be some pre-class readings, exercises, and lectures. You do those outside of class, and then during class you come in, open up your laptop and either follow along with what we're doing, or you'll have an assignment and you'll do them, and I'll come around and help you. We usually have a sort of for each workout of the day, there's going to be a time limit, say 15-20 minutes, that you're expected to complete it. Usually it's more than enough time to finish if you had done the pre-class work at home. If you don't finish by the time, or we call the DNF time, then regrettably you're not going to get credit for that. But that's okay. You can mess up a few of these things. Eventually you'll start completing every single one of these things. But maybe at first you might misestimate how long you have or struggle too much with something. In any case, there's a very important reason why we do this. Now, if you finish early, then you get a little bonus by you can go and do other work or go sit in the lounge and wait. But you don't want to leave class because you either have another assignment after everyone's finished or the DNF time comes up, or we might have a class discussion on some things. Okay, so the in-class discussions are really important. They will often be a overview or review of the exercises or business topics or design considerations or things that will really help give you insight. So you need to participate in these things. Don't just sit back and expect to absorb. It's a discussion to help you get the insight that you need to be more successful with whatever we're working on. Okay, often it's going to have to do with things like, well, how would we make a shopping cart? So keep in mind that that I'm here to help you primarily. I'm your main source that you want to go to and you get stuck, and I'm very good at helping you move along. So don't be shy about coming to get for help. There's nothing wrong with that. You're expected to have difficulties. It's not an easy task to develop programming skills, and there's a whole lot to do. But if I'm not available or you feel a little uncomfortable about something, you can try somebody in the ITMA club. They're also able to help you. Generally, all of them have gone through 352, and they usually have some experience. Of course, everybody can succeed in 352. We want to see each one of you succeed in 352, and we hope you'll enjoy the experience. So just the final words are that programming is not something you can memorize your way. You have to immerse yourself in it and just experience it and struggle with it, and eventually you will get better at it. Just like any sort of training, or like working on a sport or learning how to do something that requires skill. Programming is a skill, and you need to practice, 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 and just keep after it, and you'll keep improving and improving until you get very competent at it. So don't be afraid to ask questions until you fully comprehend something. That's what we're all about here, is to help you move through this and do really well, and hopefully really find some valuable skills. You don't have to be a stellar programmer to do well in this course. You just need to be proficient and get the fundamentals of programming. It will take you more time than other classes. You just have to accept that, but you're going to be well rewarded for the effort. But you just need to plan for it. I know that you're all busy with other classes. You probably have jobs, you have lives. Just plan for it. Just make sure that you allocate enough time during the week that you can work on 352. Typically that means going through these screencasts, doing the lab exercises, and in class we'll work on the assignments. So when you come to class, make sure you bring your laptop and that you have gone through the Web Application Development Tool module. At very least, download the XAMPP and NetBeans installers, and then in class we'll try to install and configure them. Typically people have troubles with this, and that's okay. We'll get through that, and once we get those set up, we'll start using them to learn how to program web applications. So with that, I will see you